the roots of pro-abortion hysteria. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and growing up in far leftist, peak third-wave feminist Seattle in the 1990s, I knew plenty of people who were very vocally pro-choice, and at least one that I can think of who explicitly clarified during class in high school that she was not just pro-choice, but actively pro-abortion. And for the record, that same woman announced on her Facebook timeline that she was going back on antidepressants when Trump won the election. Just saying. While many people would probably like to assume that pro-choice or full-on pro-abortion activism and advocacy is just part of the progressive gift basket that people inherent with all of the other values, along with endless apologetics for Islam and an obsession with environmentalism, when it is convenient at least, I think that these people would be completely mistaken. You see, I've personally known a lot of hardcore abortion rights activists throughout the course of my life, and it's very clear after living around them that this is one of the only issues that they truly care about on a deep, personal, visceral level. And then they also put a Black Lives Matter sign on their Facebook so that nobody calls them a white feminist as an insult. Because, of course, they have to be intersectional too. Still, there's definitely a massive difference between completely reasonable pro-choice people like this attractive young YouTuber and the people that my video will mostly be about.
And for some people, that is just 3% is just still too big of a percentage. And I get that, and I totally agree. The abortion rate in the United States should be 0. Wouldn't that be great?
You see, she's ready and willing to admit that she thinks that it would be awesome if nobody ever had any abortions. Wow, fancy that. But of course, there's a pretty clear reason why that probably is.
I am pro-choice. I believe in a woman's right to choose. I have been a patient of Planned Parenthood for at least 10 years, and I have never had an abortion.
I imagine it's probably fairly easy for her to be so calm, collected, and reasonable sounding about the whole thing. She's never had an abortion, and clarifies at a different point in the video that she supports Planned Parenthood because their services have helped her avoid abortions. So whatever, I'm fine with her. Still, there's quite a huge difference between somebody like her advocating for allowing services like Planned Parenthood to exist and people like this, that I'm sure we've all seen by now.
How many did I adopt? I kill my kids.
And then, of course, we have these women, who we can assume hated Kavanagh because somebody told them that he wouldn't allow them to abort their fetuses if they had been using crystal meth and drinking while pregnant, or something.
He's written more than 300 opinions. His opinions span nearly 5,000 pages in length. But what's remarkable about Judge Kavanagh's judicial record is not just its length, but its depth and its quality. Judge Kavanagh has been a true thought leader. He's written passing up the opportunity to confirm a great jurist, but would also undermine civility in politics twice over.
Regardless, the fact of the matter is that it's rather sad how I believe we've gotten to the point where we are today. Personally, I'm not really pro-life nor pro-choice, mainly because I am a gay male and I just don't really care and can't pretend to. However, what I do feel very strongly about is that women should be very well educated about what enduring an abortion actually does to both the body and the mental health of the young women who experience them. Because I assure you that especially in far leftist areas, young women and girls are not educated about it properly, and I have known more than one woman who has learned about it the hard way. You see, when a woman experiences an abortion or miscarriage, they usually feel an extreme amount of depression, almost reliably, similar to a case of postpartum depression. Granted, it's more so if it's late into the pregnancy. This comes as a result of numerous factors like hormonal changes, and in one friend's case, she felt as if it was something much more profound, as if she could almost immediately feel the death of her unborn child as soon as she woke up from anesthesia. A quick Google search will give a young woman a number of results of how to deal with this depression after the fact, because pharmaceutical companies want to sell their drugs, of course. But I am not entirely convinced that the education is as thorough as it could be. In my one friend's case, she ended up writing very candidly on Facebook about it and warned other women not to take it lightly, stating that she would never have an abortion again had she known. That said, her attitude was one that I feel represented true strength, in that she demonstrated that she felt as if it was worth sacrificing her own personal comfort and putting her feelings of potential guilt and maybe even shame on full display in order to help other women make responsible choices. However, I don't think that most women react in a similar way to my friend. While many women don't necessarily go on to become full-blown fanatics, I've noticed that the dramatic majority of women that have aborted their pregnancies end up trying to act like they don't feel bad about it at all. Which, to me, is kind of weird because, well, look at them.
I had an abortion, and I'm not ashamed of it. So, yeah, I'm just gonna start reading. So, in January of 2017...
You sure you don't feel ashamed? You're really sure? I mean, come on. I feel for you. I do. You seem like a perfectly nice enough person, and for whatever reason, you felt compelled to make this video. I'm not sure if I would have done the same in terms of the video, but of course I'm not a female nor somebody who has ever had any influence over any abortions. However, if you feel ashamed or guilty or sad, at least one of which you obviously do, are you completely positive that making a YouTube video designed to tell everybody that you aren't feeling that way is precisely the best thing to do? Maybe it would be better to make a video explaining how you really feel as a warning to other women, or just not make one at all. Regardless, she's not even the type of person that worries me, because from what I can tell, she's just a super young person that I don't have any great reason to believe got involved in any sort of abortion rights activism campaigns or anything like that. But of course, some people did, and still do. The following is the first testimonial from the hashtag ShoutYourAbortion political interest campaign of 2015, which seemingly backfired during the 2016 election, for pretty obvious reasons.
I took 3 Vicodin. I laughed really hard in the clinic. I cried really hard in the clinic. I had a small glass of orange juice in the waiting room afterwards, and I hugged the nurse who was there watching to make sure I didn't get sick.
Okay. I don't completely hate you. I mean, aside from the fact that you're one of the original Shout Your Abortion wackos, which does kind of make you completely horrible, what you just said right there wasn't completely awful. However, she gets a little bit loony when she says,
and here are a list of things that didn't happen. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel abandoned. I didn't tell the person who got me pregnant. And I didn't look back.
Sorry, wait, hold on. I thought you just said a few seconds ago that...
I cried really hard in the clinic.
More so, she said that she didn't look back after her abortion, right at the end before the Shout Your Abortion logo appeared. However, What should be of note is that the video was published on November 9th of 2015, and her abortion was in May of 2014, according to her earlier in the video, which means that it had only been about a year, and she was already a national spokesperson for this campaign, which was promoted mainly by one of feminism's most disgustingly calculated opportunists, Lindy West. Truthfully, I don't really know whether or not to hate or feel sorry for this woman, though honestly, she kind of has that look in her eyes where I can imagine her blacking out after 2 drinks while on antidepressants and sending somebody to the hospital to get a bunch of stitches after she clawed the crap out of them. That being said, what I think goes on here is fairly simple with people like these. Young women often experience an abortion, maybe for a good reason, like being raped or being on substances and not realizing that they were pregnant, or maybe for a bad reason, like because they just kind of didn't want to be a mother. However, due to what is known as psychological redirection, it is possible for these women to redirect their obvious negative emotions into something they feel is more productive. And in the case of both of these young women, especially the second one, this clearly meant becoming an abortion access advocate, at least on YouTube. Of course, plenty of women have mixed feelings, acknowledging that they do feel guilty and honoring that emotion for what it is, while continuing to remain pro-choice. However, of course, with people like Lindy West around, the psychological redirection is easy enough to find. And eventually, once young women are peer pressured into thinking that it's somehow legitimately cool to essentially be proud of one's abortion, even though deep down they probably aren't proud of it, they might end up like this.
Fuck dipshit, and get that camera out of my face either, fuckwit.
And then, of course, you get enough people like this around, and this happens after Donald Trump appoints a right-of-center man to the Supreme Court that is rumored to maybe be kinda sorta anti-abortion, even though it's hard to find any trace of it in his legal rulings or views on legal precedent. You see, Roe v. Wade only happened in 1973, and thus it's been less than 50 years since abortion access has been fairly universal in the United States. We are just now seeing the full effects of what happens when 2 generations of women have been raised to feel as if abortions are something to be perfectly okay with. And clearly, they aren't entirely convincing.